Sarah Robbins. How are you doing?
I am doing so awesome. How are you doing, Todd?
I am doing great. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I mean,
Me
look,
too.
I before we get into it, like Sarah Rockin' Robbins. I don't even know where'd the rockin' come from.
Well, listen, since you and I have known each other way back in the day, the people who have known me like way back in the day, nearly 20 years ago, Rockin' Robbins was like somebody on my team way, but like the song Rockin' Robbins. So it came from the
Yeah.
song, then eventually became the logo and my team name for a while. And there it was. We have evolved, but I always know people from like the old school network marketing days when they see me somewhere and they're like, it's Sarah Rockin' Robbins. I'm like, you were a part of the old blog, weren't you?
Yeah, that's stuck. I mean, I come straight out in this podcast episode, Sarah Rockin' Robin. So, all right, I got a lot of stuff that I want to talk to you about today. So, look, first of all, like I just had a chance to start digging through your new book. We're going to talk about that, but I mean, look, from kindergarten teacher to what's also crazy. I know your mom started you in the business, which I didn't know until I started reading the book. That's a cool mom right there. To in 5 years having an organization that's doing 2 billion a year in annual revenue. That is insanity.
Yeah.
Like the second company that I was in back this I started in 1995. Our biggest year was 35 million for the whole
Wow.
company. And it's
Wow.
crazy because not a big company at all, but there was a bunch of us that did very well financially, but 2 billion in annual sales in your organization and then down to zero, like 99% cut off when they went to affiliate. So,
Yeah.
all right,
We got a
we
lot to
got we got
talk about.
oh, so much, so much, so much. So, this is the first time I've ever had you on my podcast, which is awesome.
Thank you for having
We
me.
I don't even do we meet we met at some network marketing event like I don't
Was
know,
it?
18, 17 years
Yeah.
ago.
Like the mastermind event back in the day.
Oh, it was the mastermind event.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah.
all stood on the stage and talked about how many people we sponsored and how long we've been in our company.
Oh,
And yeah.
okay. So, you know what's so interesting is I share that was Jordan had us up there, and the
I said
three
that too.
questions are, yeah, how long have you been in network marketing? And it was like from 2 years to like 40. How many people have you personally recruited in your career? And it was like from 40 to 400 and something.
Yep.
And then 95% of your income comes from how many people?
Just a
And
few.
the average was one.
Yep. Oh
I
yeah.
will, like, I tell that
And
story all the time.
And they didn't just do that exercise once. It was like year after year, and it was always the same. Didn't matter your product, didn't matter your pay plan. So it was like, what was the moral of the story? You keep prospecting, you keep sharing. I share that
That's
example all the time too.
I totally forgot that we were on that same platform when
Yeah.
Jordan pulled us all up there and asked us those questions. So crazy. I know Donna was there, but my wife's like, dude, your memory. I'm like, honey, I don't remember what I had for dinner last night. So, give me a break.
Same,
Uh,
same.
so let's talk about the journey a little bit. So I'm like super curious because you go from, kindergarten teacher that's walking into the room and they're like, yeah, what's your next plan? Because you're going to lose your job at some point in the future to your mom introducing you to network marketing. So let's just start there. So was your mom, she was like a consultant. Was she a distributor in the company or what was her story?
So back in 2008, the recession, we all know what happened to Motown, Motor City, Metro Detroit. I mean, the economy in general, but where we were living, I mean, it was insane. Schools were closing, homes were foreclosing. Although I was the most requested teacher in my building, teacher tenure trumped performance. So I was facing the loss of my job. My mom was freelancing for the company that later went into network marketing. At the time, it was a retail brand. And she was like, hey, I can get you a job, 20 bucks an hour doing events. And 20 bucks an hour when I was teaching, I mean, I was making 1100 bucks every 2 weeks. That was a lot of money. I was like, in. So I was supplementing my income doing these events and was at the right place at the right time when they started looking for ways that they could reach even more people. And they called my mom and I and said, hey, good news and bad news. Bad news, you're going to lose this job. Good news is we have another opportunity. We're leaving retail, going into direct sales. Do you want to do this? Funny part of my story is I was a shy young kindergarten teacher. I had no network. I had 19 cents in my bank account. I knew nothing about sales except for the fact I said I would never do it. But my mom was a savvy serial entrepreneur. And she's like, I know stories of people who do these businesses and they do very well. We'd be crazy not to do it. So I'm the firstborn child, the most compliant one, which means you listen to your mother. And I'm like, I'd be crazy at least not to try. So I started, and I will tell you, it was those events, reading the books, doing the things in the beginning. I mean, we had no upline, we had no mentorship in the company. When we started, we didn't even have a pay plan. So I just became a student of this profession. I started to learn, I started to grow, I started to develop systems. I mean, it took me 3 months to sponsor my first person. So definitely not an overnight success, but no industry experience. I will say, fun fact about my first company, which I spent nearly 20 years in, no one had experience in the industry. In fact, we didn't sponsor one person from another company. So all of it was homegrown, grassroots. And that is what I think is the craziest, like coolest part of the story.
Yeah, I think it's, well, first of all, to go from no sales experience, no direct selling experience, kindergarten teacher, which is a very honorable job raising our youngsters, right? To getting introduced to network marketing, having nobody there to mentor you, guide you, teach you, no systems to plug into, and then the fact that it took you a few months to recruit your first person, but still managed to do over, I mean, let's just say a billion, even though it's
Yeah.
multi-billions, but that's still to me is so insane. And like, so if you guys are watching, listening, you need to, like, this is this conversation is with someone who's got more documentation than you can possibly, I don't know what they say, shake a stick at. And when we get into it, the fact that you spent 20 years there, so one company and organic, right? That's another thing. It's like so many people want to go, oh, let me just go recruit other networkers. I understand the thought,
Yeah.
but I think we need to do a good job of like introducing new people like yourself. Like some people would be like, I want to go recruit another networker, and they'll skip the Sarah Robbins, who could be the biggest distributor they ever put into their organization. So when I guess my question is like, you get going, you got you and your mom, they shift from like an employee deal to, hey, we're going from retail to direct selling, no like published compensation plan yet. You don't have any kind of guidance or leadership other than maybe somebody at corporate, but I mean, it was brand new going from retail to network marketing. How did you find like your, I don't know, how did you find your flow and just kind of get into the groove? And I mean, you had like going from kindergarten teacher to now you're having to create systems, and you hadn't created a
Yeah.
system before. How did all that stuff happen?
I will tell you, and that is the thing that we actually had on our side without having industry experience. And sometimes I will say, now I'm on the other side of having industry experience, sometimes industry baggage too. Like I will say, I was so hungry. I was like, I have to replace $2,200 a month. What do I need to do? So, literally, no joke, we talked about earlier how we met at an industry event. I was investing in learning. I would show up, go to the events. I remember Donna Johnson, who's one of my mentors, even still today. I saw her at that event and I was like, she's in a similar type of business as me with, all of these female, leaders. I chased her in the bathroom. I'm not proud of that. In my young 20s, she'll tell you the story. And I'm like, are you Donna Johnson? She's like, just give me a minute. And I was like, if I could only just learn from you, even if you just have a moment. And she was so kind. Most people don't know this story, Todd. When our group was starting, again, we had no mentors, we had nobody to look up to. She was like, oh, you're doing this retreat in Arizona. I have a home there. Why don't you bring your leaders and I will treat them to lunch? Now I look back and I'm like, I should have offered to pay for the lunch. Like literally, like she puts on this beautiful lunch. There's no exchanging of contact information. It was that moment in time that literally it showed us what was possible. And I remember sitting in her home, looking at her life, looking at the way she led. And I'm like, man, I want to do this too. So I will tell you, I was coachable. I was hungry. I was willing to learn from others who had gone before me. And I really became a student of our profession. I really started to, I mean, if there was a book, I bought it. If there was an event, I went to it. If there was a company sponsored thing, even like new consultant trainings, I would be at those every single time because I'm like, surely I am going to learn something new. And every single time I did. And I will tell you, I do believe there was a moment in time that it really everything changed with a decision. As I mentioned, it took me 3 months to sponsor my first person. I used to be the least highest earner in the company, if that was the title. And I remember one time I was sitting in a parking lot at a Bible study, and a friend who is a leader on my mom's team called me and she was like, "Hey, I know why you're struggling." She's like, "Are you open to feedback?" And I'm like thinking she's going to give me like some 5-step system to success. And she was like, "You haven't made a decision." She's like, "You're showing up, you're doing all the things, but you're saying another thing." And I would say, "Nobody's joining my team. I'm never going to grow." And all of these things. She's like, "You have to decide." And I will tell you, there was something about that moment where I was like, "I'm going to lead." And I would say things that were totally not true at the time. I'm like, "I've got the fastest growing team," not publicly, but just like personally, my declarations. And I started to see people would respond to me differently. And then we would start to put systems in place. And I will never forget, there was a month I was teaching school and I recruited my first leader. And my check went from 3,800 to over $11,000. I had never seen anything like that before. I went from selling to now having leaders on my team that were duplicating and growing. And I remember going, that was like back in the day when you got like, the paper checks that were like signed by, the
Yeah.
company. I was like, this cannot be real. Like, do I hide this under a mattress? But like, I'm too honest. So I call the company and I'm like, "I don't want to cash this in case there's some sort of mistake." And they're like, "No, like this is real." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay." But that's when things really took off for us.
Isn't that interesting? Like, well, first of all, whoever gave you that advice, you need to make a decision. That is
Yeah.
like, that is gold because so many people, as we both know, they get into business and, well, I'm here, I'm going to give this a go for 90 days or 6 months. They really haven't made that decision. Like, I'm doing this thing, and I was just like you. Like, I didn't. It was 2 years for me before I made anything, and there were people all around me, left and right, quitting. I mean, think about no money for 2 years. And then I had one check. It was like, I don't remember the exact amount. It was like 13,000 and change, the paper check with the printout that comes in an envelope. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, that was the biggest check I'd ever seen. And it was mine.
Yeah.
And it was like a big like belief shifter for me to like, okay, if I can do one $13,000 check, I can do it again and again. But for you guys that are watching, like just ask yourself, and you might have to dig deep, like, have I really decided? Because there's going to be times like, I don't know. I mean, well, you did a couple billion your first 5 years. I mean, so huge success, maybe not right out of the chute, but
Yeah.
were there times early on where like, I don't know if I'm, did you have any of those moments or like, I don't know if I'm
Oh,
cut out for this or,
I quit more than anybody else in the company. I talked to our founding CEO, Lori Bush, and she was like, "I remember." Now, again, I was in my young 20s, so nobody judge. Okay, you can judge if you want to, but I wouldn't do this today, 20 years later. She was like, "You called me one day. I was skiing with friends, and I was at the top of the ski hill, and I see your phone call, and I pick up, and it's like, I think I'm going to quit." And I had a lot of those moments. And I have a crazy story for you. Actually, somebody on my team who did. This was somebody who I ended up sponsoring to the business. And I remember Donna always telling me, Donna was like, "Sarah, I know people who would be multimillionaires today if they didn't quit. Quitting is going to be your biggest mistake." So I keep going, okay, like re-recruit myself the next day. There was a woman on our team that I sponsored into the business, and she wasn't really coachable. She wasn't really willing to do the things that say, "Hey, let's launch your business. Let's do this, that, the other." And it was always like, "Hey, not going to work for me, yada, yada." Well, finally, as last ditch resort, she's like, "I'm going to quit." I'm like, "I urge you not to. We're going to put together this email." I write the email. I don't even remember what's in it. Doesn't matter. And I say, "Will you send this to your network?" And she's like, "Sure." So she goes, sends this out to her email list. And one woman responds and is like, "I'm interested in learning more." So on New Year's Eve, I remember doing a call with this woman. She was an artist and she joins. And the woman I sponsored was like, "All this hard work," and I quit. I'm like, "Hard work? You press the send button, but okay." She quits. This one person ends up building the largest sales team in our entire organization. Richard Brooke renamed her the $50 million woman because he's like, "I guesstimate with average growth, conservative investments, that's what that person walked away from." So I always encourage people. I'm like, whether you're a team of one or you have one person who joined you, you never know what people will do or who they will lead you to. I think that was like I mean, nearly half of our organization, which was incredible. So that is a great lesson and a great thing to remember. You just never know when things will change for you or when you'll find that one person who will change everything.
Did that woman ever find out that the person that she put in like blew up the business and oh my gosh, I shouldn't have quit or what?
This is the best story. So we always ask her that. We're like, Susie, what ended up happening? And she was like, we saw each other in the grocery store. And I told her thank you and how much the business changed my life. I was like, oh man, I might have just rounded the other corner and just hightailed out of there. But no, Susie was like, I had to tell her thank you. It totally changed my life. She was very gracious and she said, I'm glad it worked out for you. And I'm like, oh man. But that is
Wow.
a great, great reminder why we never quit.
Yeah, and I know our friend Jordan Adler always says, "Never quit on a bad day," because we're gonna have bad days. You
We're
know,
gonna have
I
a lot of
mean,
those.
yeah, for sure. Like people look at networkers that are making big money and like, oh, it's easy for you, and it's like everybody you talk to signs up, which is not the case.
Yeah.
We just don't give up. We just keep on moving ahead, and unfortunately, a lot of people will take those no's. And like, I mean, some people, it could be one no, and then they're toast, they're done. And I think you got to be a little bit, well, I know you got to be a lot more resilient than that. But what I want to, one of the things that I'm going to bounce around because I don't, just so you know, I don't have planned questions. I don't have a list of like
Yeah,
20. I never
perfect.
do it that way. So you have this long, successful run, like 20 years in one company that recently they go and first of all, they shifted from retail, and you happen to be there when they shifted from retail to direct selling. So you were there at the beginning. And then they shift to affiliate, which for those of you guys that don't know, that's going from paying commissions out through multiple levels to one or two levels. So they're basically going, thanks for all the build and all of the people and all of the volume, but now we're only going to pay you on your first level, which ultimately the organization collapsed overnight, checks dropped to virtually nothing,
Yeah.
which is incredibly frustrating and disheartening, I'm sure. But the thing that you said in the beginning of your book, it's like, I don't remember exactly how you phrase it. Can we, I don't have it. Like, can we do it again?
Yeah.
How can we not do it again?
Yeah.
And at the very beginning of your book, I was like, wow. Cause you had, over the years, you developed these systems and I want to talk about systems, but it's, you not only do you go into, I won't say a new company, cause it's not a new company. And this is also another fallacy. You
Yeah.
go, I don't even know how old is the company that you're with now? I mean,
70
40
years.
plus? Wait,
70.
what?
70 years.
Yeah. No, you got to be in the first 24 months. Otherwise, it's too late, which is such baloney.
It is
So
100%.
you go from having this big check, 20 years of success, things are great. Boom, we're cutting you off. And you're like, I'm sure you weren't expecting it. Nobody was. And the thing that really caught my attention at the beginning of your book is like, okay, it's, we built on these relationships and, we have these systems in place. Can we do it again? And then when you wrote, how can we not do it again? Like, let's talk about that for a second, because I mean, honestly, without getting into your personal finances, I'm sure you're probably pretty good. So making the kind of money you made for so long, it's not like you had to do it again, but you chose to do it again in a company that's over 70 years old. Let's chat.
I'm glad you busted that myth because I'm like, who made that up? And furthermore, it's like back in the day, 20 years ago, the industry was different. And oftentimes we look for the shiny new. We're seeing more and more people today with the changes in the economy, but also in the industry that are actually looking for stable and strong. We're actually growing faster
Yeah.
now than we did the first time. But I will say, we're not starting over. We're starting with wisdom and experience, but also too with systems. So in that moment, so I'm going to tell you the story. It is July 15th. We had just gone on a company trip. Our CEO wasn't there. We were told he had a family emergency. I go on Facebook and I'm like, he's off of Facebook. Now, I didn't think anything was coming. I just thought maybe sending something personal. So I went to text him to say, hope everything's okay. It went from blue to green. I was like, oh, that's real interesting. But again,
Hmm.
not really knowing what was going to happen. You have to keep in mind, My team was still doing 1.6 billion in sales when this happened. So there was no warning. When people are like, did you know? I'm like, I would have ran for the hills and told everybody else too. Like these are people I loved and led well for nearly 20 years. So we get a call July 15th, just a few weeks after the trip, and it's a surprise leadership call, which never happened. And it's an attorney on the screen, and she's reading from a script, letting us know everything was about to change. And I start getting all of these text messages. People are like, wait a minute, what's happening? And I'm like, I had no idea. So I'm reaching out to one of our VPs. I'm like, what's happening? She goes, I just got laid off too. I have no idea. So that literally was shock of a lifetime. Now, I love what you said about resiliency. The people who go the distance, not only in our profession, but in life, they're gritty. They have resilience. They don't stop at a no. They don't stop at rejection, right? And so I remember getting off that call, and the very first thing that came into my mind was, what do I want to do next? It wasn't a question of if, it was just where. I had every opportunity at that moment. You can ask my husband. I know you know him well. We're just sitting there, and I was like, Phil, you've got to be on these calls with me. I can barely even process what's happening. I have owners of companies going, I'll be on your doorstep in 20 minutes. I live down the street. I'm like, I'm good. So we're tracking all of the conversations and all of the things. But for me, again, it wasn't a question of if, it was just where. I had people saying, you should start a company. And I know there are people that are cut out to do that. And I'm like, no, thanks. I've got two little kids under the age of 10, like not the season of my life. I have fallen in love, not only what the business did for me, but what it did for so many women. That was the majority of my audience in my previous company. And now that's changed. But I look and I'm like, as a mom, I'm not trading hours for dollars or my time for somebody else's money. I'm doing a business on my time, on my terms. It is such a gift. And it's like, what other business can you become profitable right away? So, again, for me, I'm like, we're not starting over. We're starting with wisdom. We're starting with experience. We're starting with systems. And I'm like, of course, I'm going to do this again. And that is another thing, too, like another myth. And maybe you have people listening who maybe they've gone through this before. I talked to somebody earlier today. She's like, I went through this 6 times. She was with Modere. And I'm like, well, that's a lot of times to go through this. I'm thankful I only this one time.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it's like there is this myth. It's like, well, if you hit success one time, like that was, it's like a unicorn, it's like an anomaly, you're never going to do it again. And I'm like, it's absolutely not true, but again, you've got to have that gritty attitude. It's like, okay, we're going to do this again. And I will actually tell you too, it's fun. It's fun to see names on the leaderboard again. It's fun to see, the celebration on social media. It's fun to be in the trenches and building with my team. But I will say that is like, if I could give one tip to every leader listening today, I was talking about this the other day with some girls in my mastermind. I was like, leaders lead in on the mountaintop and in the valley, in the good times and in the hard times. And I think part of the reason why we had success going into the next chapter was people trusted our leadership and we were there in the trenches. I do believe that that was it. Now, from kind of like the natural, like tangible, what do we do? The other thing I will say is, and I know you didn't ask for this, but I want to share this, is we never held on to unforgiveness. I never fell into that pit of betrayal. I literally, from that moment, was like, I forgive the people who had to make this decision. I am so thankful and grateful for what it did for us and what it did for so many people and how it set us up for the next season. Just having all of the experiences and things that we did. I didn't stop to like sit in a corner and eat a pint of ice cream. I'm like, I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I'm never going to say anything bad about these people or that experience. We're going to move forward. We're going to have a great attitude. We're going to do the thing. And we did. And I do think because we were quick to forgive and really honoring in that season, I do believe it's what set us up for success in this new season as well.
Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty easy to be angry, and I'm sure there are people that are still angry, right?
Yeah.
And what's also kind of fascinating is, I mean, your group still was doing 1.6 billion. And so that had to be even more unexpected because it's one thing if the company goes from whatever, let's call it 4 billion. I don't know what they were doing. And now you guys are doing 30 million. You're like, the writing's kind of on the wall, but there was no writing on the wall. And I have lots of friends in Modere too. And that month that they, did what they did, that was also, I mean, there were still checks in excess of 300,000 a month that were getting ready to be popped, which shows you there's still a lot of volume. I was actually pretty surprised. And we don't need to get into why. I mean, these are like,
Yeah.
PE companies or venture capital
Yep.
companies that make their own decisions for whatever reason. And it's, you could try to dig into that, but it's not like you have any control over it. But what's interesting, and that's the one thing that we don't have as network marketers in the field, we don't have any control over what corporate does.
True.
Even, I mean, you could be like in your position, top leader in the field, top earner, and they're maybe like they're listening to you, but they're the holder of the purse strings and the final decisions, unless you own the company, which as independent distributors, you don't. So for people that are watching, I mean, that's the one thing that you don't have, but you got all the other things. Costs you very little to get started, work when you want, play when you want, no limit, I mean, we got rules, but policies and procedures, but it's, I've never seen a more freeing type of enterprise than
100%.
what we have with direct selling. And, you know, the fact that you didn't have this anger, I mean, I know you're a solid Christian woman, which that's probably where some of that came from. But to be able to just, you know, get hit with what you got hit with. Okay, then of course I'm sure there are probably people like literally knock. Hey, I'm the CEO of so and so.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't quite do that, but they're like, I'm sure your phone was ringing off the hook and all sorts of offers, and then you ultimately made a decision, which I found, I don't want to say, well, fascinating isn't probably the right word, but 70-year-old company, and you said something that's also rather interesting as well. There are more people today are looking for that stability
Yeah.
and that assuredness. And yeah, the new companies, the newest, latest, greatest trend, the new ingredient that just got, I don't know, discovered or whatever, where, a lot of companies will launch off of some fruit juice that was discovered that's been on planet Earth since, God created Earth. But they're looking for something where, like, if you're going to put your time, effort, and energy into something that's like, putting the odds in your favor, like, back here, like in this screen, that's a chart of, it's a financial chart for, and I think that's my Bitcoin chart that's up. But, if I entered into a trade, I'm not just entering into a trade, I'm entering into a trade based on high probability.
Yes.
So if you're in a company that's 6 months old, yeah, maybe there's the upside of if it goes big and you luck out. But I think, people that have been around the block, man, they're looking for something that's like, if I'm gonna go put my effort and energy into something, I want this thing to be here when I get there.
And I will say,
So
I was like at the place where I'm like, I don't want to attach my name or network into just anything and then have to, even if it wasn't about me having to start over, it's other people having to start over and do it again. Now, again, was I one who was one of the first in my company in the beginning? Absolutely. But now I look and it's like the complete opposite side of the story. However many, I mean, there's millions of people in this company, millions of people in. And literally, they gave a stat. It was like, since you joined a year ago, 200,000 people have joined. So again, it's like, let's bust the myth. Ultimately, it's like, find the thing, and it all depends on your risk tolerance too, right? But you find the thing that you believe is going to be there for the long term. And when I look around and I'm like, there are seasoned people in the company, AKA maybe they have gray hair or white hair. I was like, didn't I want to be that person in the room in my first business? The answer is yes. I wanted to be the oldest lady in the room. So, I'm just so in love with what this business does for people. And to your point earlier, too, I've been in different masterminds, things like that, of people who aren't in the channel. Do you know how many times, and these are some of the most successful people I know, people pull me aside and they're like, help me to find a network marketing company. And not even necessarily about my business, but just like, help me to get in the industry. They're like, it is so smart. You don't have employees, you don't have 20 people like staff in your house every day. You don't have overhead. Like, a lot of online marketers are like, I had a 7-figure launch. What they don't tell you is they spent 6 figures in ads. It's like everything we do, we're turning a profit, even in those beginning days when I was earning $1,000 a month. I mean, it is one of the smartest business models. And again, the best part is it truly does just help the everyday person win.
Yeah, and and it's interesting because I did a post, I don't know, last week on the subject of, because people come when they're choosing a network marketing company, it's like, oh, our comp plan is this, or I mean, honestly, your comp plan really, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but the reality is it really doesn't matter. Ownership matters. Who's running the show? Who's making
True.
the decisions? Because every comp plan pays out money. Yes, comp plans will dictate behavior, more retail, more recruiting, or whatever. But I tell people all the time, like before you look at anything else, who is running the show? Who's making the decisions? And because that's ultimately going to be the determining factor as to whether or not you succeed long term. And you are big on systems, like your new book, the multiply method. Like I
Yeah.
had a chance to, and I'm so glad I'm one of the very few people that actually have a copy of this
Yes.
book. It's not
Like you
even
literally
it's not
have
even
the
tech.
like the little sticker. It's gonna be shiny and pretty and cool,
Yeah.
like a little holographic cover, but first peek.
Oh, it does. It says advanced. I didn't even look at that. I just saw the advanced reader copy. And look,
Yeah.
I had a chance to I haven't had a chance to read it page, cover to cover, but I definitely spent quite a bit of time in here. And there's so much meat and there's so much good stuff and there's so much focus on systems. And what's interesting is you over the years develop systems with your previous company and you're like, okay, we got all the systems, we got all the wisdom, right? The experience. Now, can we just take these systems and plug it into this new company and let's see what happens? And the end result for you, obviously, has been a smashing success. So, without us going through the entire book, because I want people to, this seriously is, I get people all the time that come to me with their books and they want me to promote it. And some of them are good. I mean, and a lot of them are good. Some of them not so much. And if it's not, honestly, if it's not such a great book, I can't really get behind your book. So don't call me if your book is crap. Make sure you take the time to write something that's meaty. And this is not a motivational book. It's like cover to cover content of what to do, and it goes all into your systems. But if we could just like focus on a couple of things that when you're developing systems for build, systems creates duplication. The word simplicity I saw used in there. I mean, if it's difficult, I think you used I always use the McDonald's example, which now, is definitely not the healthiest, but definitely a great example of duplication. You talked about Starbucks, right? Um, what are some of the things that you feel are absolutely critical to creating a system that's going to create duplication and ease of moving people through ranks and advancing in leadership?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say this. This book I actually wrote before I went from billions to blank slate. And the book was ready to go and literally ready to go. And it was almost like God was like, okay, I have another chapter for you. Do you know what I actually did when I was rebuilding? I was like, we got to pause. We cannot release this right now. Like when I'm in the trenches, like doing the thing, I want to literally fine tooth comb like every word I'm saying as I'm prospecting, as I'm closing, as I'm starting new people, literally. So I was like fine tooth comb going through the whole thing. So this is like I'm in the trenches teaching you what's working for me, what worked for me 20 years ago, and even some updates of like what is working right now. So I think that's really important to know. And you're right, like a lot of books, they're stories. This book, there are stories, but it's systems. And so to answer your question, what makes a successful system? I believe when we simplify, we multiply. And so for me, it's not about the latest fad or funnel that I can build myself that just works for me. If I want to create month over month growth in my sales and lead a team into the big word we always hear, like momentum, truly, that's what I experienced before. It's what we're experiencing right now. Everybody has to be able to, it's like pseudo franchising, right? You talked about McDonald's, I talk about Starbucks. It's like a simple system that every single person, no matter who they are, no matter their background, no matter, whatever the case may be, that they can come in and they know exactly what to do, what to expect, who to talk to, what to say. So this is full of systems, everything from a simple selling system, which is like the number one system that we have to master if we are in sales. Brett Blake always talks about, he's like, so many companies that come up with a product and a pay plan, but they fail to do the most critical work, and that's to develop a selling system. So it goes through a selling system, systems for how to sell on social media. Social media is changing all the time. So it's not necessarily going through the algorithm and all the things, but it's like what works on social media right now, prospecting, presenting, closing, all of the things. So these systems are designed to help anybody, any company really level up in their sales.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool about this book, and because I'm always having conversations with leaders like yourself, like I'd say a majority of my conversations are with master distributors, top reps, C-level executives, company owners. Yeah, I talk to mid-level people and I coach people at all different levels, but it's fascinating to me how many people that I talk to that don't have a system. Like, okay, like I was running a coaching group last night and we were on the subject of duplication and systems. And I'm like, okay, I want somebody to volunteer and tell me, w- give me a little rundown on what your system is. Now, one guy he came out and he's like, boom, 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 boom. I'm like, oh, okay. And the company that he's in is like experiencing momentum and growth. And I was like, okay, well, bro, I totally I expected that from you. The rest of the group, they were kind of like that. Like they couldn't say anything. And I was like, okay, if you can't quickly articulate some of the steps, if not all of the steps in your system, and they're a term that I've used for so long is so simple a 7-year-old could do it,
Yep.
then you need to look at that. And the cool thing about this book is somebody who feels like maybe their system is off or they don't have a system, they can literally go through the book and develop their own system. Because that to me is like yeah, I know that there's some stories in there, but it's not like just a bunch of stories. That's like, to me, like when I started network marketing, I was like, dude, just tell me what I got to do and how I got to do it. You don't need to layer it with a bunch of fluff. I just want to know, I see people making money here. I want to succeed here. And like you started seeking out like the answers and you were curious and you went to events. Like I really couldn't, not that I couldn't go to events, but we were in such a closed culture. It was a good group that I started in. We had really amazing training. So, but if I met you and I knew you were a top earner, I was running right up to you. I'm like, hey, I'm new here. What kind of advice can you give me? Because I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and you clearly do. So, there's so much meat, and I hope you're not a vegetarian because I keep using the word meat, but so you might be. But I live with a vegetarian. Carla's a vegetarian, so it's cool. I can talk about meat. But yeah, you guys. And by the way, when is the book going to be available? Because I know I got this, for one of the first copies. When is it going to officially be available for people to grab?
Yeah, so the book is going to be available on August 5th, but we have pre-orders that are actually happening
Oh,
right
cool.
now. And we'll leave that page up, by the way. So when people are listening, you can put it in the show notes, but themultiplymethod.com. It's the name of the title.com, themultiplymethod.com. And we have some awesome bonuses that we're giving people just with a copy. They get the workbook. One of the things that I think they'll love is with this book, my goal is for helping people to really generate leads together in real time, like as they're working through chapter by chapter. So each chapter actually has implementation that's designed to help them to generate more sales, sponsor more people, get more leads online. So each and every chapter has a challenge. So they can pick it up and pick up the bonuses at themultiplymethod.com. And I love what you said too earlier. It used to be like back in the day, it was like, don't expose, the people to the company. It's so funny. I started coaching probably about like 10 years ago. And again, I look back and I'm like, didn't sponsor one person from another company into my business, but I helped a lot of leaders from other companies to grow. And it's so interesting. Like now we're in this like information age where it's like people can get access to whoever they want, whatever they want. And I'm like, in what other world do we not want our kids to learn from, like the Babe Ruths of baseball? Like, let's find the people who are in the trenches today, like actually today in the trenches, like teaching people how. And that is my hope, really, is to help anybody from any company, like if they take this, if they implement this, to really help them to multiply.
You know, you bring up something that's pretty interesting. I mean, you are a distributor in the field. That's what you've been for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Yet you do have clients, coaching clients, groups that you run that, these are people in other companies. And I've spent the last 19 years on the independent speaking side. But what's also fascinating about that, there are still, and there always has been, companies or leaders that are afraid to either hire me, bring me in because I'm going to steal your people, which I think is really fascinating to me because now I get it. Like there's people that have done that in the past, but your leadership should be in such a position where if they're going to go, they're going to go anyhow. They're not
That's
going to
right.
go because I romance them into joining or you romance them into coming over with you. And I mean, I've been doing this for so long. I'm like, dude, if I haven't recruited people into something else at this point, when do you think I'm ever going to do it? I've had every opportunity to do it.
Same.
And yeah, of course. And
Yeah.
so, when people like you and I mean, I could have done it. I never did because I like having friends.
Yeah.
I've, I've, my, you're, what's interesting is you've been in the field side. That's what you've been doing. I've been on the training side
Yeah.
and but my training comes from field experience. I just chose to move in that direction, and I just find it like really interesting that when you can learn from somebody who's actually had real world field success, why wouldn't you want to learn from that person? Like you have like major documented success. Honestly, the amount of sales that you've done like blows me out of the water. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say I don't think I never did a billion a year in sales in a team. I'd have to go back and look at my numbers, but I mean I've done well, like really
Yeah.
well, but not. I mean, you're doing more in your sales organization than like anybody that's past the top 10 in the global 100. That's insane.
Yeah.
Think about that, you guys that are listening. Like her sales organization is bigger than, I mean, I think it would be maybe the top 10 or top 12 companies in the entire world that exist right now in the network marketing and direct selling space. So, how could you not want to learn from somebody that's got that level of documented success? And, the other thing is the fact that you're putting stuff like I know people that make big money in network marketing. They've never written a book. When maybe they're not motivated to do it. They're not necessarily motivated to inspire others outside of their organization. But you've done that for honestly as long as I can remember. You've run your coaching groups, you run these different academies or whatever. I don't know what they're titled with what you do, but you've always done that for as long as I can recall. And I think that's a beautiful thing to be able to give to the larger part of the profession based on your success in the business.
That's actually my heart. My heart right now is because I see so much happening and changing is to help to redeem the industry. And I know you have the same heart too. We've been talking a lot about this just behind the scenes. And for me, what most people don't know, how my whole personal brand, Rockin' Robbins, right? Like you don't just like wake up and go, I'm going to do coaching. I mean, I have two businesses and two babies. It's like, who has time for that? I never like this for me wasn't about profit. It was about passion. I do think it's the teacher in me. You can't take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can take the classroom out of the right. So it's like I I have such a heart. Like I love creating systems, making things simple and seeing people win. So back in the day, this is actually a fun story. Most people have never heard this story before. I would go live just teaching how I was building my business on a Facebook page once a week. It's because my company had a rule because it was so brand new and Facebook Live was so new. They're like, we don't want to be liable for what you're going to say. Don't say the company name. Okay. I had no intention of building a personal brand. I had zero intention. I would go live once a week on this public page and I'm like, hey, team, here's my prospecting pop up, my training in under 10 minutes. Those are still on my podcast today, like old and scrappy, but I would go live once a week sharing sales tips. And people from all over the world, all of these different companies started to tune in. Again, I had no idea what I was doing. Nobody trained me to do that. I was just like, I'm going live and I'm just sharing with people. And for a long period of time, people were like, do you have coach? Do you do coaching? I'm like, who has time for that? No, no. And then eventually started doing like once a month classes. And then I was like, oh, you can actually do group coaching in a Facebook group. And I was like, I swear, if I launch this thing and only 5 people sign up, I'm going to be like, just kidding. And I had 500 people who were like, I want to learn from you. Then it was like turned into leaders going, do you have a mastermind? And all of it evolved over time, but it goes back to that quote, right? Timing, perseverance, and 10 years of trying eventually makes you look like an overnight success. I built, so it was a collective social media following and an email list, over 500,000 people by showing up and serving
Wow.
once a week. Once a week, that's it. To this day, I still show up and serve on these 10-minute trainings literally once a week. And that is how literally our personal brand was actually birthed. It wasn't me going like, hey, how am I going to go and, develop multiple streams of income? It was literally me showing up and serving. At the time, didn't know what I was doing, but literally was that, just giving value to people and always prioritizing people over profit. Like you said, relationship over revenue. And now it's like I have these solid friendships and relationships that I formed over the years. When I do my free trainings, I do a lot of free trainings. I literally make people sign a digital agreement up front. And I'm like, hey, we are in a neutral space. People aren't here to build your company, they're here to build theirs. Before we proceed any further, I need your digital agreement that you will not mass friend, DM, spam, sell, etc. If you agree, say I agree. And it's like thousands of I agree, I agree, I agree. You know what's so crazy? It's not just about, I haven't sponsored anybody since I've been doing coaching literally now for years. There has been not one complaint of anybody in our groups selling or sponsoring. So are there people who do it? Sure, but they just haven't set the standard, maybe for themselves or in the group. But again, it's like, I think like, I want my people to learn from you. I want my people to learn from other leaders who have experience in the industry, who are doing it or have done it. That's how we all grow. And it's like wherever they get their knowledge from, if it helps them to grow, that's great.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when a leader is like, oh, I don't like, I know people that are like, I don't want you reading any books outside of like anything that, and it's funny because most people in these companies haven't necessarily authored books, right? Or they won't let them go to outside training events or in like it, none of it. And it's like, that's like telling a person like, okay, you can go read Think and Grow Rich, but that's it. You can't read another book. And I'm like, dude, I want you to go. It's like, I want my kids, like both of my kids right now, one of them's going to be home in like an hour. He's coming back from Peru. The other one is in I don't know what country. I think he's in Spain right now. But I want him to go out and explore the world and grow and learn and develop. And I would want my people doing the same thing. Like if there's somebody that I've always been in the opinion, like if you got experience and success in something that I don't and I can learn from you, I'm game.
Yeah,
But again, it comes down to ethics and integrity and
totally.
we know that people in and out of network marketing, they're lacking in integrity, but you know, uh, I mean, the fact that you do that, like the digital agreement, like I've been running my A team program since June of 2008. Like it's a long, I mean, I do that every quarter for like how many years is that? 16, 17 years. And nobody's ever gotten recruited out of my A team either. And I got people every time I run one, unless I do a private one, which I'm running one right now with like 725 people in a single company, which is super fun. They're in 10, 15, 20, 30 different companies.
Yeah.
And I think it's also representative of you running your coaching program or me running my coaching program. I think people know better,
Yeah.
even if we didn't say, I agree, they
Yeah.
kind of know how we roll. So they're like, oh man, if Sarah finds out that I'm like sniping people out of our group, and you're a sweet person, but I'm sure like if somebody came in there and started stealing people, they'd very likely hear about it. So, um, I'm just like, this book, you guys, you need to get this book. Okay. Get the book. And you're literally hearing from somebody and I've interviewed a bunch of people, like a bunch of really good networkers, but the cumulative and the annual sales, Like how, like it's one thing to do. I got a group that's doing 10 million a year. That's pretty cool, doing 10 million a year, but doing a billion plus a year out of your team. And I keep repeating that because I don't know. I mean, I've interviewed some pretty big networkers, maybe a couple that have done a billion a year, but not many. I mean, that's big numbers, big numbers. So, want to learn how to do big numbers? Get the book. And tell me, I'll make sure when we post this on my page that the website for them to get the book. So is it the multiplymethod.com or
Yeah.
what is the domain?
Themultiplymethod.com. If they purchase on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, it's not all the major retailers. Just be sure to go back to themultiplymethod.com because you have to enter in your receipt in order to get the free workbook. So we'll send it via email. And it's,
Or
whether they want to build big or maybe they just want to, develop some sales of their own. That's how I started my business. All of it will be there for them. The language, the scripts, the tips, like everything they need to actually multiply.
and I'll just say this, skip Amazon, go to the multiplymethod.com. That's where you want to go.
Thank you.
I think Jeff Bezos has probably got enough money.
Yeah.
So go to the multiplymethod.com. So I mean, I bought stuff on Amazon, and I'm sure I got a box somewhere in the last couple of weeks that have hit my house. But if I'd rather support a successful entrepreneur, I'm sure you get something from Amazon, but it's not the same thing as if somebody goes to your website. And
Thank you.
look, 20 plus years, you don't have to be a sales pro to be successful in this business. I think it's also pretty interesting, you going from kindergarten teacher to what like that had to have served you well because I actually know quite a few teachers, guidance counselors that have ended up in network marketing, and many of them have had really significant success. And I don't know, maybe that's just the like supportive, I want to help you, I'm going to walk you through, not to do it for them, obviously, but like the actual desire to really help someone grow. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but like, because I've never been a teacher for a school, I teach for a living. But like, what what do you think out of like you coming from being a kindergarten teacher? What is the thing from that do you feel has like served you the best as a network marketing professional?
Number one, just a love for people. And number two, I notice teachers do very, very well. I think it is that number one, the desire to see people win. Like, I love when people are in my coaching programs, like when something unlocks, we actually stop and we're like, you go, girl. And everybody does this, or, like, I'm excited. I love to see that. But also, too, the ability to take something that somebody thinks is complex, like sales, and to literally simplify and create a little system for them. And it's like, hey, success is a lot simpler than you think. So I think that's it. It's like the heart of a teacher. And again, it's like take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out of the teacher. I always say, like, for me, it's like coaching is not a profession, it's a passion, and for me, I love, I mean, I went through this whole it was interesting, this whole kind of like, this program was called the Identity Exchange, not anything for direct sellers, not anything for network marketers, but it was like, who really are we, and it's like we can so associate like who we are with what we do. And anyhow, it took me 6 weeks to really get to that answer, which was two things: teacher and leader. No wonder I loved teaching. No wonder I love, leading in the direct sales space. No wonder I love coaching. But it was actually cool. That season actually prepared me for the big news of, this is not your identity. The company's not your identity. Top earner, founding consultant, blah, 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 all those things. Like, that's not your identity. No matter where you go, it's like that thing that you're good at, the thing that you're called to do, like that favor is going to follow you wherever you go. And so I'm grateful for new beginnings. I'm so grateful for second chances. I am beyond grateful for this profession that changed my life. And now I think just part of this kind of like legacy mode that I'm in right now is preserving it for the next generations so it can change so many more. That really is like, my heart and kind of why I continue to show up the way that I do today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for spending time with me, with my audience today. Again, right here, you guys, the multiplymethod.com, not Amazon. That's where you want to go and get the book. I've had a chance to dig through it and to learn from someone with such documented success. And again, whether it's like, you may not want to do a billion a year. Not everybody does. But I mean, even if you want to make a couple grand a month, and I got to say, lastly, it's like, man, you know what? Like, once you get like residual income once, like, whether it's not, it doesn't have to be big. It could be a couple grand a month, 3 grand a month, 5 grand a month. And if that were to disappear, like for whatever reason, like, okay, the company went affiliate or the company went out of business, how could you not want to go do it again?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand, like, how, like, oh, okay, well, all right, don't want to have to do it again, but let's go do it again.
Let's do it
And
again.
yeah, so, this book's going to help you move your way through creating simplicity for your reps, systems, duplication, multiplication, and God forbid that you ever had to go do it again. You'll have the knowledge and the wisdom to go do it. So again, thank you so
And
much
do
for
it.
spending time with me, with my audience. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, you guys, that's a wrap on another fantastic conversation. We'll see you on the next episode.